the sheer size of it is enormous, enormous. Ontario alone's bigger than most countries.
I don't think we had any idea the impact that that blog would have. The notes that we got constantly from people that we hardly knew, sometimes total strangers that said how much they loved our blog and they couldn't wait. Sometimes if we got held up and we couldn't work on the blog for a few days, we'd start getting notes from people. We can't wait to hear your next installment. I just love it. And it was really shocking for us. I think that there were probably a lot more bears on the road. I kept hearing from other cyclists, oh, there's lots of bears when you go through there. But honestly, I was so nervous about that in areas where I thought there might be bears, I just looked straight ahead and I just thought, if I don't know it's there, I'll be fine.
Actually anybody can do that. You don't have to be an athlete. It's not that it's not hard, but it's more a lot of the difficulty is psychological. It's not just physical. You've got to be able to keep on plugging.
Bevan, and I live on Vancouver Island, and I just turned 56 last week.
And I'm Martin Gavin, and I'm only 55. Well, at least for another few days. And I'm also recently retired. Where are we?
We're at the CIBC Run for the Cure.
Right.
In Richmond Hill. We really wanted to do this. My sister is a breast cancer survivor. We cycled across Canada. We left on May 30th. And we had a ticket out of St. John's for September the 27th. So we knew we had to be finished by then. And we finished on September the 23rd.
We took a fair bit of time off as a trip. We took a week off with friends in Alberta and another week in the Toronto area that we covered. We went to PEI and as well as all across Newfoundland. So it's a long way, 8,500 kilometres altogether. For the route that we took is 8,500 kilometres.
There were certain parts of the trip that I organized, and there were certain parts that he organized, because we realized that I'm good at that, he's good at that, and I think that we complemented each other that way. And through the whole trip it was like that. There were certain things that Martin did, and there were certain things that I took the lead on during the trip. And I think as long as you're not fighting for that kind of power or whatever, and you're sharing all of that, then it works. If you live in a place like Vancouver Island, that everything is developed, that we're in big trouble because the whole country is developed. When you go through places like Northern Ontario and you cycle across Newfoundland, you realize that there's so much of this country that's not developed. Thankfully, that's not developed. How absolutely gorgeous it is in places like the Cabot Trail and Gross Morin and the Rocky Mountains. This is just an absolutely breathtaking country. We're very fortunate.
I focused all my attention on trying to clear away obstacles, and I didn't waste mental energy worrying about stuff that I couldn't control and that might never happen.
We each had our days when we had down days, and we would just try and boost each other up, and because there are times when you just think this will never end, or the day will never end.
It's hard to keep going. It's not that there are some days that are particularly hard, but it's not always the most physically hard days that are the hardest. It's just difficult to tolerate that amount of disruption. Constantly packing, unpacking, trying to find things.
Trying to find food. Where are we going to do laundry?
Continually trying to deal with just really basic things, and always being under pressure at time, because it takes so much time just to get it all done. We were only putting in about 100 kilometres a day, but to do that and stay organised and figure out what you're going to do the next day.
The highlight for us was the people that we met. We met hundreds and hundreds of people. Everywhere we went, the kindness of strangers was overwhelming at times. People took us into their homes, fed us, others went out of their way, total strangers that we'd meet at outside a cafe would offer to take us to their house to either get warm or do laundry. It's amazing.
We took our time, we spent a lot of time talking to people, and a great deal of time eating. A lot of time eating, didn't we?
Did drink a lot. By the time that we finished each day, we were pretty tired. So we just wanted to eat and find bed.
And then eat some more. Yeah.
And work on our blog and do laundry and all that. It's very full days, very full days.
Most days we've been busy from about 7:30 in the morning to about 9 at night, because the amount of time it takes to pack up gear, pack up a tent, get on the road, unpack, set up tent, shower, get something to eat, write up the blog till 9 o'clock at night. So,
and then plan the next day.
Yeah. Did a lot of reading on the Crazy Guy on a Bike site, which is where our blog is. We had a lot of physical preparations, mostly running. We're both runners. We've both done quite long distance running. So our cardio fitness was pretty good. But we didn't have any physical preparation other than that. We didn't have time.
Everything happened very quickly. We actually had our house for sale for 2 years, and we really were just about giving up, thinking that it was never going to sell. As it turned out, we started just living our lives, making other plans. I was going to start a business, Martin was going to start a course, and then on February 14th, after 2 years, we got 2 offers on the same day for the house, and we accepted one of the offers, and by the next day we were starting to plan the trip, but we had to pack up our whole house, buy all of the equipment. We didn't have any camping gear. We had to buy the bikes.
And it's not just a matter of just buying it, but to research what we would need, to research the type of bikes that we would need, the type of components that we'd need. We didn't have any camping gear, so we had to find out what was the right kind of camping gear to buy. So really most of our preparation went into that. Plus packing up all our belongings and putting them into storage, so that we could do the trip.
We really just had to be very action oriented and just buy the things that we needed. It wasn't until I actually got on the bike the morning that we were leaving that I was thinking, oh my God, what are we doing? I was literally shaking. I was terrified.
We didn't have time to practice on the bikes, and the bikes were extremely heavy. I think mine was probably about 90 or 100 pounds with all the gear on it, and hers was probably 60 or 70 anyway. So it's handling a bike that weighs that much is very different, and we're both a bit concerned about actually falling over or being unable to brake to a halt or trying to manoeuvre, and it took quite a while to get used to the handling of the bikes. Another thing that was interesting was the reaction we got from people on the road, because so many people wanted to stop and talk to us, and I think they were surprised that we'd try something like that, and we were able to tell them that actually anybody can do this. It's not you don't have to be an athlete. It's not that it's not hard, but it's more a lot of the difficulty is psychological. It's not just physical. You've got to be able to keep on plugging for a long period of time. So having good cardiovascular fitness is a huge help.
And we met lots of people doing it. Like, we met tons of other cyclists who were doing it. And I think that was a surprise for us, how many people we would meet. But in BC and in Alberta and through the prairies, there's really only one road to take for the most part. So you meet other cyclists. So we probably met at least 30 to 40 cyclists through the trip, and some of them we wound up traveling with sometimes for weeks. Like, we'd wind up being neck and neck with them and wind up at the same campground every night. We had iPhones, and everybody had some kind of phone, so we would stay connected through text messaging, and so we made all these new friends. And other than the fact that the country is just spectacular, the highlight for us was the people that we met. We met hundreds and hundreds of people. Everywhere we went, the kindness of strangers was overwhelming at times. People took us into their homes, fed us, just went out of their way. Total strangers that we'd meet outside a cafe would offer to take us to their house to either get warm or do laundry. It's amazing. It's amazing. We met very few people who were unkind. There was one guy that we met that I would say there was one person that we felt uncomfortable with. And the rest, I mean, we met hundreds of people.
It wasn't me.
No.
No, it wasn't.
It's amazing how well we got along, especially I had a tough time in Northern Ontario. About 7 to 10 days before we got to Aurora, an old injury flared up on my shoulder. It's actually, what is it?
It's a repetitive strain injury.
It's a repetitive strain injury, and my shoulder and my arm, I was actually in agony sometimes, and to keep going was very difficult. Martin was amazingly patient because we'd have to stop every half an hour, 45 minutes for me to either take another ibuprofen and it was very painful. But fortunately, we made some modifications once we got to Aurora and I got better. But we got along, and we had our moments when we were cranky with one another, but for the most part, we got along amazingly well. We're very supportive of one another.
It'd be pretty difficult if you didn't. If you get overly cranky with one another, it's not going to work. Yeah.
So we each had our days when we had down days, and we would just try and boost each other up, and because there are times when you just think this will never end, or the day will never end.
It's hard to keep going. It's not that there are some days that are particularly hard, but it's not always the most physically hard days that are the hardest. It's just difficult to tolerate that amount of disruption. Constantly packing, unpacking, trying to find things.
Trying to find food. Where are we going to do laundry?
Continually trying to deal with just really basic things, and always been under pressure at time because it takes so much time just to get it all done. We were only putting in about 100 kilometres a day, but to do that and stay organised and figure out what you're going to do the next day.
Ever since we met, we had talked about it.
We just both knew that we would never get a better chance to do it.
We're proud of one another that we did it, and that we could support one another, like you said before, when times were tough. And I was really worried in Northern Ontario that I wasn't going to be able to finish. And Martin, when we got to Ontario, we put our heads together, and when we got to Central Ontario, we put our heads together about what we could possibly do so that I could finish, because I would have been pretty devastated if I couldn't finish. But if I knew that I couldn't cycle in the pain that I was in, and I'm just so thankful that the pain totally went away and I was able to finish because of the changes we made.
We reduced the amount of equipment we were carrying. We dumped all the camping gear, which meant we only had panniers, saddlebags on the back, not in the front as well, so it reduced the weight of the bikes a bit, and it meant less weight for her to wrestle on the front of the bike. Plus you weren't sleeping in a turn rest pad, so you were able to sleep a bit better. So then we also got the bikes modified so your handlebars went higher up, so you didn't have as much weight in your shoulders. So we had to make changes to actually pull it off.
I think that for me that was the biggest thing, that we were able to get through that, because we met a young couple in their late 20s, early 30s, who had planned the trip for 2 years and they never finished, and suggested it was because of little things that had happened, that his knee was sore and whatever. But I thought, we planned the trip really in 3 months and we pulled it off, and but we were able to support one another. And I think that people can, if people don't feel supported, it's very difficult to do it. We did meet other people who were in groups that didn't feel comfortable in their groups that quit. We encountered elk, and there was one day that we had to arrange something so that we could get by elk that were on the road, a stag specifically, and we had to get help from a motorist so that we could ride beside him, so that we could be camouflaged.
So we could get a vehicle between us and the elk to get past them. That was in Banff National Park. And we also ran into a bear cub, so we got out of there fairly quickly, and we saw moose. I focused all my attention on trying to clear away obstacles, and I didn't waste mental energy worrying about stuff that I couldn't control and that might never happen. So I put a lot of effort into trying to find out what problems you could expect on the road and how to avoid them, like getting the right tyres, getting the right components in the bikes that were going to be durable and would do the job, and the right camping equipment and so forth, so that we wouldn't blow it because of some avoidable equipment issue.
When I taught at the university, one of the things that I taught people to do was set goals. You do short, clear, concise goals, and then you build on those, and you always keep them positive. It's not what you're not going to do, it's what you're going to do that's important. We met a young couple in their late 20s, early 30s, who had planned the trip for 2 years, and they never finished, and suggested it was because of little things that had happened, that his knee was sore and whatever. But I thought, we planned the trip really in 3 months, and we pulled it off.
I think they were surprised that we'd try something like that, and actually anybody can do this.